Okay, really quickly. Four people. First, Fidel Castro. Uh, Fidel was a Cuban revolutionary who served as the leader of Cuba from 1959 to 2008. After overthrowing the dictatorship of Fulgencio Batista, he established the first communist country in the Western Hemisphere. Then we have Fulgencio. Fulgencio Batista was the Cuban president from 1948 to 1944, and later the U.S.-backed dictator from 1952 to 59. He made fortunes for himself and his associates, also jailing anyone who chose to oppose him. Then Raul Castro. Raul served as the first secretary of the Communist Party of Cuba. He also played an important role in helping his brother Fidel rise to power. And then lastly, Che. Ernesto Che, or Che, was a guerrilla leader, Marxist, and military leader that helped organize the Cuban Revolution. Alright, see ya.
You need to leave!
Yeah, I'm on a boat. Meanwhile,
Let's go.
One debt to society later.
Nighttime, I'm up at the right time. Sword damage, I say he get. Let's go.
The book symbolizes the rebellion against authority. McMurphy's rebellion against Nurse Ratched can be seen as a denouncement of all the authorities that oppress people. His actions are representative of the political revolutions that occur elsewhere in history, as well as other stories of nonconformity, such as Jesus from the Bible. Nurse Ratched symbolizes an authority figure that takes away the power of the people she rules over. The patients symbolize an oppressed majority that does not realize the power that they hold. Ironically, many of the acutes are at the hospital voluntarily, but because of Nurse Ratched, they believe that they are powerless to change their situation. McMurphy makes them realize that collectively they have the ability to change their own lives and their condition. There is also a connection between this book and another book, Men in the Sun. In both books, the main characters are representative of a larger oppressed group. In Men in the Sun, the characters believe that they are powerless, and as a result, they do not knock on the tank. However, in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, the characters learn to metaphorically knock on the tank.
So McMurphy can be considered the leader of the rebellion that takes place inside the book. In the beginning of the novel, most of the characters are apathetic towards changing the setting and scenery around the ward. What McMurphy does is that he energizes everyone and shares his passion for removing the absolute control that Nurse Ratched possesses. For example, when McMurphy fought for TV access during the World Series, he convinced several people to join his protest, including Bromden. This can be demonstrated by the quote, "It's like that big red hand of McMurphy's is reaching into the fog and dropping down and dragging the men up by their hands, dragging them blinking into the open." Kesey 109. This is one example in many of how McMurphy brings other people and passionates them towards his cause, similar to how a leader would recruit people towards their own cause. Additionally, by the end, it is very clear that McMurphy is their leader. He sacrifices his life to his cause of overthrowing Nurse Ratched, becoming a martyr in the process, and truly seeing that his goal ended up being fruitful. This is why McMurphy is similar to Fidel Castro, in that they both took a cause, embraced it, and led it to completion.
On to Bromden's idea of the Combine. Bromden's idea of the Combine is the idea of the general society and the rules associated with it. As shown by the book, Bromden experiences the effects of the Combine throughout his life. At first, his land was attempted to be bought by the government for colonization purposes, and later, he lands at the hospital for not fitting in with the rest of society. He believes that the Combine forces people to conform to a certain behavior set that is considered normal. He also believes that this system reflects upon the power allocated to the most influential. This is seen by the quote on page 38 by Dale Harding. Uh, quote, This world belongs to the strong, my friend. The ritual of our existence is based on the strong getting stronger by devouring the weak. We must face up to this, nor more than right that it should be this way. We must learn to accept it as a law of the natural world. As seen by the quote, those at the top of society could impose standards for everyone below and essentially had a lot of power. This scene is metaphorically represented in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, with Ratchet being the most powerful force. She distributes her tasks to workers below her, which being the orderlies, and she oppresses the patients of the hospital.
The setting of the book is in a mental institution in Oregon in the 1950s. We know this due to Brownings's recent memory of World War II. The ward where most of the daily action takes place is ruled by the big nurse, Nurse Ratchet. She's almost like a dictator. She plans out the schedule for every patient in advance and also punishes anyone that steps out of line. Throughout the novel, the hospital staff comes and goes, adjusted to Ratchet's liking, but the patients remain in the ward. Using rules and regulations, Nurse Ratchet keeps the patients docile instead of improving them, and also pits them against each other. This setting is much like Cuba back when Fulgencio Batista was back in power. Batista used his power not to improve his people's lives, but to maintain order through tyrannical methods, much like Nurse Ratchet. He also seeks to shut off the people's voices by taking away their freedom of speech.
Now, how they fit into the period of history. This is represented in the events of the Cuban Revolution, in which Fidel Castro and his followers decided to revolt against the dictatorship of Fulgencio Batista. Similar to McMurphy, Fidel Castro proposes a new idea that works against the teachings of the Combine and causes conflict. He expresses individuality and goes to great lengths to support it. Supporters begin to follow him, similar to how other patients in the mental ward in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest gain inspiration from McMurphy's behavior. In this situation, Fulgencio Batista represents the ruler at the top of the Combine, like Ratchet in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He uses the Cuban government to carry out his work, similar to how the orderlies were made available to Ratchet.
Let's